Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up in this bulletin, Finance Minister Dr. Cassiel Ato Forson engages cocoa processors on emergency value addition measures as he gets ready to announce major reforms for the sector. We'll be telling you the true picture of the cocoa sector, plus engage an economist on these developments. Also in this bulletin, production of goods and services for November 2025 slows to 4.2% of GDP.
Our economic activity in Ghana was 4.2% higher in November 2025 than in the same month in the previous year.
Plus, we will be sharing your thoughts with the rest of the world on our Joy Business poll concerning Guterres' call for the outrightization of the VAT system. We have details of this and more coming your way all in a moment. Please stay. Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojobaka, and to that big story we are learning for the day, the Finance Minister, Dr. Cassiel Ato Forson, has finalized a meeting with cocoa processing companies as part of emergency measures to deal with the crisis facing the sector. The engagement was also part of efforts to explore some innovative ways to add value addition to the bean locally. Here is Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forson speaking at a meeting with the Trade, Agribusiness and Industry Minister, as well as the Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Dr. Randy Abbey.
Delivered this afternoon at about 1:30 at the Ministry of Finance. We are using the morning to engage key stakeholders, and so this is the first of many meetings that we'll have today. And we have successfully engaged processors, cocoa processors, and just to ascertain from them their ability to be able to process cocoa locally to add value and create jobs, and where possible create wealth also for our people. And so you can see the heavyweights with us today, their ability to be able to process significant amount of cocoa. The details will be delivered this afternoon as part of the cocoa sector reforms. Let me also use this opportunity to entreat you that government is going to roll out a comprehensive reform of the cocoa sector. The sector has survived this country for years, created jobs, and has done so. It has become more or less, has always been our mainstay of the Ghanaian economy. But it's obvious that it's undergoing some challenges and it needs some reforms. And those reforms will be announced today. And I'm sure going forward, all of us will be happy to embrace the new cocoa sector. Thank you very much.
On her part, Trade, Agribusiness and Industry Minister Elizabeth Ufosue-Jari expressed the government's commitment to effectively deal with the challenges facing the cocoa sector.
We are here to make sure that we talk to industry, know what their challenges are, and solve them so that they are able to process our cocoa right here in Ghana. Can you imagine what will happen to our employment front if 50% of our cocoa is produced right here and processed right here? I'm sure the answer is what you are thinking.
All right, let's have a broader conversation on the back of these cocoa stories, and we have been joined via Zoom by Professor Peter Quarty, an economist, to help us appreciate the developments in the sector. Thank you so much, sir, for making time to join us here on the marketplace. Your quick thoughts about the current challenges facing the cocoa sector.
Well, good afternoon to your discerning viewers and listeners. I think the systemic problem with the cocoa sector should have been addressed long ago if we have really planned and thought through carefully. we are not adding value, and we keep saying this all the time. We produce cocoa in its raw state and export. Meanwhile, we import equipment and other things that are more expensive, whose value keep going up all the time. So right from the onset, we are shortchanged ourselves. We haven't run cocoa board and cocoa sector like a business. I don't think we have done so. Instead of even staffing, in terms of its operations, and then even the financing model. I don't think the financing model has been good. I keep asking all the time, why is it that we always have to borrow to purchase cocoa? Why shouldn't we have set up an endowment fund and annually contribute some money so that by 10 to 15 years, we would have had such a buffer to use to finance cocoa purchases? I think we have to go back to the drawing board and ensure that we address some of these teething problems. Cocoa roads. Why should Cocoa Board be constructing roads? Shouldn't it be, we have a whole ministry, roads and highways, in charge of that. I think we have to get back to business. It's unfortunate we are failing cocoa farmers. It's unfortunate we have this commodity that we are not taking advantage of. In these times when prices have gone so high, we should be celebrating. Farmers should be celebrating. This is not the time that farmers will be waiting to be paid.
Meaning that we could have avoided into this crisis, right?
Oh, very avoidable. I think it's avoidable. We have not managed the finances very well. And I'm not talking of current government. I mean, government, since we set up Cocoa Board, I don't think we have managed the cocoa sector so well. And we need to really sit up and ensure that there's value for money, there's value addition. When you add value, the revenue that becomes so huge that you're able to pay farmers very well. You're able to develop your infrastructure and invest into research and innovation. Unfortunately, we are not adding value, the same raw beans that we export, and even what we get, we are not using. By now, we should not be borrowing to finance cocoa purchases. We should have a buffer, we should have an endowment fund, or we should have something that we always fall on to finance cocoa purchases.
What do you make of some of the issues that the finance minister will highlight in the major reforms that will be announced in the next couple of minutes? 1:30, we are learning.
Well, I think if we had the finance minister hint at it, saying there's going to be processing, and that would be great. As we engage companies, and the Minister for Trade and Industry and Agribusiness has also hinted at it, processing is key. So we need to engage. And I'm sure we'll get private companies, foreign or local, joint partnership, come on board and process our cocoa. But again, the financing model, let's look at the financing model again. Let's set up a fund where we can contribute to, government can contribute into this cocoa fund and ensure that we don't always have to borrow to finance cocoa purchases or invest in the cocoa sector.
But I've heard some argue that, well, these measures are coming too late. Your thoughts?
Yes, I think so. Well, better late than never. But I think we could have done this long ago, during the boom period, during the heydays of the cocoa farming era. We know cocoa. I mean, we've been to cocoa growing areas. I have lived in Sunyani, Brongafo region. I've seen cocoa farming struggle. I've seen cocoa farms. I've seen their livelihood, etc. And looking at the revenue we generate from cocoa, we shouldn't have waited up to this point where farmers cannot be paid. Their livelihoods are threatened. Their families are threatened. So we should not waste time on this.
And what do you? All right.
Should be now.
And what do you foresee happening on the economy largely by way of impact as a result of this crisis?
Well, I'm happy the Minister of Finance is stepping in quickly. Cabinet has discussed the way forward. If we delay, it's going to affect our reputation internationally. It's going to affect farmers. Farmers there'll be disincentive for them to continue to invest in cocoa farming. What they're going to do is either they smuggle or they sell their cocoa farms to illegal miners and get quick cash. I don't think that is what we want. They can cut down their cocoa trees, burn them, and invest their land into something else. I don't think we want to encourage this. To the international community, to the buyers of our cocoa products, if they know that they have bought cocoa or they are buying cocoa, yet the farmer who produced that cocoa has not been paid, morally and their conscience will not be right. It's been going to affect the demand for our cocoa. So we need to sit carefully and ensure that this doesn't happen again.
And ultimately, we are envisaging that these sweeping reforms the finance minister is set to announce would bring some clarity and sanity in the sector. How optimistic are you?
No, I'm quite optimistic. I mean, given that even cabinet has met over it, tells you how significant and how dire the situation is. So I'm very optimistic, and I believe government is going to do it. Because it is it's a huge reputational damage to the government, and I don't think with a reset agenda, government will sit down and allow this to happen. So I am very, very positive that in the coming few weeks, this will be resolved.
Professor Quartey, kindly hold on for me as we take the next story, which happens to be the GDP numbers by way of release from the Ghana Statistical Service. And we are learning that the provisional figures released by GDP for the month of November slows to 4.2% compared to 7.1% in the same period 2024. The services sector was the biggest contributor to aggregate production of goods and services, recording growth of 6.7%. Now, on the contrary, the industry sector growth slowed sharply to 0.4% compared to 6.2% in the same period of 2024. Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu cited the decline in oil and gas industry as a strong reason for the decline in the industry's decline growth.
Monthly indicator of economic growth index for November 2025 is 122.7, up from 117.7 recorded in November 2024. What does this mean? It means that overall economic activity in Ghana was 4.2% higher in November 2025 than in the same month in the previous year. This 4.2% is what we call the growth rate from the MEC index. In plain language, Ghana produced 4.2% more goods and services in November 2025 than it did 1 year earlier. It is important to note that the MEC is not seasonally adjusted, since we don't yet have a longer series to enable deseasonalization. The agriculture sector recorded a growth rate of 4.1% in November 2025, compared to a growth rate of 3.8% in November 2024. The agriculture sector contributed 32.4% to the overall growth rate of 4.2% recorded in November 2025. The improvement in growth in agriculture actually is reflecting stronger performance in fisheries and crop production. Agriculture, as we know, is naturally seasonal, but the data shows a steady upward trend over the past 2 years. This tells us that the sector remains resilient and continues to support food supply and rural incomes. Let's turn to industry. The picture is more subdued when we look at the performance in the industrial sector. Industry grew by 0.4% in November 2025, contributing 2.5% to the overall growth of 4.2% in November 2025. This is a slowdown, especially if you compare it to the 6.2% growth recorded in November 2024.
Dr. Alhassan Idrisu is the government statistician. Professor Peter Quartey, I hope I have you on. Your quick thoughts about the November GDP numbers slowing to 4.2%, driven by the services sector.
Yes, well, we are growing, but not at the level that one would have expected. I think we should be growing at 5% or even higher than that if we really want to significantly affect poverty. But these are monthly figures, as the government statistician indicated. They are not seasonally adjusted, so we have to interpret them with some bit of caution. But what I like about this is that we are now having monthly GDP figures, and that is good. We need to develop that so that we can be at par with other advanced countries. It is rather unfortunate that industry is not growing as much as one would have expected. The 2.5% growth, I think we could do a bit better than that. Not services. What the kind of services we are seeing are not high volume services, and we need to grow agriculture and industry. Those are the two critical sectors where we find most jobs. If we want to reduce unemployment, then we have to target these two sectors so that we can get them to grow as fast as possible to match them.
And talking about focusing on agriculture and industry, like the statistician mentioned, agriculture is seasonal, so more or less you can say it's expected. But for the industry sector, what specifically do you think must give to improve the sector?
Well, industry, I think you spoke about the oil and gas sector. We should diversify. Manufacturing should be where the focus should also be. Should be targeting manufacturing industries, ensuring that they get access to cheaper credit, they get access to other enablers, so the manufacturing sector can grow. Even with agriculture, how we say it's seasonal. We shouldn't be seasonal. In these times of modern technology, we should be doing more irrigated agriculture, commercial agriculture. So we shouldn't be looking at seasons. And we should also be storing and processing. So this idea of having seasonal production, when the weather is good, then there's bumper harvest. It's about time we move away from that. There's greenhouse technology where we can be producing year-round, and that should be the way forward.
Professor Peter Kwesi, thank you so much for your time here on The Marketplace. I'm grateful having you on. All right, so we want to stay a while longer on the economy, this time around about cocoa, because we need to know the true state of Ghana's cocoa sector. My colleague Winston Taki joins me in studio with some data on that. And Winston, glad you could make time to join us here on The Marketplace. Now, tell us, what is the true state of Ghana's cocoa sector?
Today we got data determining the GDP state, and it tells you that there's contraction in the crude oil sector. It tells you that we have to prioritize our major commodity in terms of earnings, in terms of foreign exchange earnings. Cocoa is one sector we can play with. But the current trend tells you that there's so much focus on how to ensure the price and benefit Ghana. But at the moment, in a global stage, cocoa, at the moment, these are the key challenges confronting the sector. We have 530,000 bags without buyers, over 50,000, and bags yet to be cultivated. Basically tells you that we have so much to do in the sector. And this time round, the financing model has been a key challenge for quite some time now. Already, we are away with a syndicated loan. Now we are having an off-taking finance in which the CEO of COCOBOT says is now being handled, and this has brought a key challenge in the near term, calling for an emergency meeting by the finance minister. He met with the processes. This week we had a conversation trying to prioritize where we can diversify our options in terms of benefiting the farmer, benefiting the industry and the sector, making sure that we don't lose out on not just Cote d'Ivoire, but many other countries like Nigeria, Mauritius, countries that are now prioritizing cocoa. But the key challenge now is that the farm gate government promise is $5,272. However, the global price has fallen to $3,944.
The shortfall
is basically $1,324. This is the challenge that the government is facing. Remember, when the city began appreciating, one key challenge the CEO of COCOBOT kept saying is that he said he called Ato Forson personally saying it should slow down with the appreciation. All the other sectors were benefiting, but this was a promise to rain, and that is the major challenge that faced the cocoa sector. If you look at the trend in terms of the cocoa prices, we started dynamics. It was as high as $10,116 then, and it appeared to be falling gradually to $7,000, rose to $11,141, and now far below the average, which is basically $3,444. So these are the challenges facing the sector in the interim.
All right, thank you very much, Winston Taki, and I'm glad you could make time to join us here on The Marketplace, and we are grateful for having you on. We shall be following up, and of course our man James Ishen is at the Ministry of Finance to bring us up to speed with that very latest development, and as and when we do have the feed, we shall cross over to James Ishen. But Finally, before we wrap up the bulletin, the Ghana Union of Traders Association has issued a blistering ultimatum to the government and the Ghana Revenue Authority demanding an immediate suspension and review of the VAT Act 151. Addressing a press conference on Wednesday, GUTA warned that the current implementation of the Act is stifling the trading community and could lead to widespread industrial action if their grievances are not addressed. Joining me on the Joy Business Pool is my colleague, Isaac Atasenyako, to tell us what people are saying. Ike, thank you so much for joining me on the marketplace.
Always, Pius. Now, before I jump to the poll, what do you make of this particular VAT reform, the 1151? What do you make of it? Should we scrap it? Should we keep it? Traders say we should scrap it, suspend it for now because the 20% is too high for them. What do you make of
But really,
this?
wasn't any consultation done? That's my first question.
Well, the traders say that the consultation never came off as planned with the Ghana Revenue Authority. And so they were looking forward to see something, a meeting or a series of meetings with them, but that never came off before they realized they had been slapped with a 20%. And so, yeah, we decided to hit social media and then ask. GUTA is demanding the suspension of the VAT Act 1151, which mandates 20% VAT and a return to the flat rate system. Whose side are you on? So here on X, you realize that bring back flat rate VAT, support new VAT system, tax system needs a review. You realize that a lot of people voted for the new VAT on
system.
X. Also on Facebook, same thing, support the new VAT system is what a lot of people are calling for. But it's interesting, if you go through the comments, Sami Champon says, this is the reason why Dr. Baumia pledged a flat rate system. This would have made traders better off this coming 7 January, You want to take this, Pius?
Yeah, only the poor will pay. Interesting.
Salisu Awao says that these traders are extremely greedy. If you refuse to reduce the price of goods in the market and expect a better tax regime, who should expect a better tax regime for you? But this one on X, he decided to use Grok to tell Grok to explain what the whole situation is about before going to his conclusion. His conclusion is that so then the old system is better, saying the flat rate system is better, Pius.
All right, thank you very much, Isaac Atasenyaku, for today's edition of the Joy Business Poll. And that's it for the marketplace for today. I am Pius Kujobaka, always a delight serving you. Let's connect at 5 p.m. with Business Life.